Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Need you, dream you, find you, taste you, fuck you, use you, scar you, break you. I think that's the order,
Yeah.
right?
Why did you do that?
Actually, that's my stages of grief as I'm going through today's Killapalooza.
Okay.
My name is Eric, and you're Michael.
I am Michael.
You are
in
here.
Fact.
We're doing four. It's a short one. 4 Phantasm movies.
Four
today.
Phantasm movies.
On
What
I
you
believe-
should have opened with instead of the amount of films was instead we're doing a Killapalooza today. Raise everybody's hopes.
And
4
then-
Phantasm films. Bring them right back down.
I don't know if it's the taste you or the fuck you phase that I like the best, but definitely not the scarring or breaking, which we will surely get to. You are not a t-shirt guy.
I'm not a t-shirt guy.
However, I noticed today, instead of your usual, let's say, attire, you are wearing a Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo
I am.
New Orleans t-shirts.
I am wearing that.
But where did this thing come from? What is this?
It came from New Orleans. I went down to New Orleans.
Okay, first of all, pause. You left Chicago.
I left Chicago and on a whim for no reason. A mutual acquaintance of ours wanted absinthe.
Yeah. You yourself an absinthe drinker?
No, not at all. But I am myself an avid traveler when it comes to getting there for free.
Yeah, okay.
So I went down to New Orleans and much to my shock, I think I pissed all over Bourbon Street.
Sure.
And not for the reasons everybody else was.
Right.
When I turned the corner and saw that Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo is a real fucking place.
This is an actual place in New Orleans.
So for those of you that aren't aware, Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo is an iconic portion of the Hatchet
certainly
franchise, which you're also sporting in
yeah,
t-shirt
actually,
form today.
speaking of which. So did you go in? What was this
I did. I
place?
went in. It was amazing. It was a
Can you tell me something
it's a
about it?
very serious voodoo shop.
We're going to get to Phantasm, but
Right.
I have to, I mean, is it this, do you think the interior was used for...
Oh, not at all.
No?
Not
So
even,
just-
not even a little bit. But it's a very serious voodoo shop. They take it 100% seriously.
Oh,
You're not allowed to
beautiful.
take pictures of things because they will scare the curses out of them or whatever.
This is amazing.
And everybody's really sullen and grumpy. And when you ask them which doll should I buy, which is a good souvenir, the answer is always something like, all the dolls have been blessed with the same blessings. Choose the one that you think is the right doll because it's probably calling to you because of something yada yada yada. I bought a t-shirt that has a scary face.
It does have a scary
and
face.
just says Zombie's House of Voodoo.
It kind of looks like a little Plan 9 action there.
It's completely nondescript.
Beautiful.
As
I
far as
love
voodoo
it.
goes. I don't mean to take it seriously, but I couldn't pass up the chance to own that shirt because you can't. That's not a online.
No,
thing.
certainly not. Oh, love it. I'm going to take a picture of that, I think. We'll put it on the website or something.
Sweet.
Website is donate.doublefeatureshow.com. Why don't you just use that direction to
Yeah.
get to it, that address. This is I think our second Killapalooza of the year.
So second Killapalooza of the year,
14th.
but 14th overall.
Total. Cannot believe that is a real number.
Thanks, everybody.
We're still going through them. We're doing the ones people request.
Kinda.
And
we're skipping a few that people
well,
continue to request.
We'll get back to them.
Too many puppets.
There is one small favor I will ask of our audience.
Okay.
Donate.doublefeatureshow.com. We had to fight with our input box for, 12 hours before we were actually able to record the show.
Right.
And I had a lot of really exciting, amazing things to say that I've permanently forgotten forever.
Yeah, you did.
We need to replace this thing, so give us some money. Instead, I'm going to give you all of the crap that's left over that I remember, and that'll compose today's show, which I believe includes spoilers.
It not only includes spoilers, but it also includes chapters, which you can use to avoid the spoilers, and we'll have it divided up by film. So if you want to skip through all the Phantasm films,
Sure.
the whopping, I'm not going to say quadrilogy, the whopping
don't say
foursome
that.
that is
Foursome is much better.
Phantasm.
Sure.
Then you can just skip right on. You could skip to the second, skip to the third, skip to the end. And
I like that you once again assume our audience does not know how to count to 4. That's good.
it's not an assumption. It's an educated guess.
I would like if I may, to take you on a strange journey into the first Phantasm film, which came out in 1979.
Came out in 1979.
This opens with the man with no neck. How did he get in here?
I don't know. It's weird because...
Or I guess Angus Scrimm doing his take on the man with no neck.
Well, eventually he kind of accordions out and becomes the tall man.
Yeah,
but not before doing this weird little desk jockey gig of... I guess he talks about the film. He clues us in.
He points out he's a better actor than he got. So if you haven't seen this particular copy of the movie, this is the new anniversary edition, something, box set, whatever. It opens with Angus Scrimm talking about the movie a little bit.
I don't like when this happens.
Spoiling the movie.
Yeah,
actually.
Exactly. I don't like when this happens.
So I completely tuned him out to write down Rocky Horror Picture Show jokes. But you were listening. He said he basically told you what the movies were about.
I had seen the first Phantasm film, similarly to when we did the last Killapalooza, which was Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes,
I had seen the first one and then not seen any of the sequels. So I had seen it, but to be completely honest, had no fucking idea what went on in the original.
That's still
Phantasm
how I feel,
film.
but yeah.
So I was listening very carefully to Angus Scrimm's, I guess, a dissertation of his experience with Phantasm. And one thing I learned for sure is that it's pronounced Coscarelli.
Okay, good.
I wasn't sure if it was Coscarelli or Coscarelli, so I was glad he clued us in on that. But also he just kind of tells you what the movie's about, which still
includes a lot more dimensions, time travel, and Martians than I had anticipated.
More. Also more accordioned corpses.
Yeah, there's that too. Well, that part I would sort of get by the end of the first film.
But why, though?
You have to start at the beginning, which is, by the way...
That's a very good place to start.
Once again, two people fucking. You know my favorite opening for a film is just two people fucking. Slasher franchises, totally getting it right. So already, this series has completely won me over. There's nearly nothing that it can do wrong from this point on. We have Reggie Bannister actually playing a character...
Who plays Reggie.
Named Reggie. And Michael Baldwin playing Mike.
Okay.
Young Michael Baldwin at this point in the franchise.
Little Michael Baldwin.
And then Angus will show up later as who I guess we'll call the tall man. So we're keeping everything pretty stripped down, pretty basic. And we start in Morningside, and already the movie has a lot of tact, too. Because when you start in Morningside, which is some kind of... gated mansion graveyard.
It's a gated mansion graveyard mausoleum
thing, right?
Funeral parlor.
So easily you could have made Morningside a pun just in the spelling, and maybe the movie overlooked it, or maybe they chose the high road.
Sure.
Let's assume positive intent here. High road. And I love the design of this mausoleum funeral home thing. What is it? A mausoleum? Is it a mansion? What? This place is fucking big.
It's huge. There's just marble hallways lined with drawers containing the dead.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody would live there. Well, then again, there's someone that lives there. I don't think it's really a house. I just think it's a place for bad things to happen.
Well, and that's all we need. You know, and having such a large interior spot like that, you live in a corn maze.
Sure.
I mean, this is the spooky corn maze from any other slasher film, just nested inside a giant mansion. This is really what Amityville should have done. It's made the house huge and unknown and scary, a big jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, so it's all that marble stuff. It's the black and white and the red accents and the corridors like we're in fucking Doom 3. Actually, by the time we have these chrome sphere things flying around, and we're shotgunning at them, I kind of feel like we're just playing Half-Life.
Yeah.
And then I guess the score would be the other component outside of the visuals and the actors. And the score, and you know, maybe this is just because we've been on a little Argento kick, and I'm kind of into that. But how are you feeling about the Argento these days?
I'm getting cravings, I guess is a good way to
isn't that
put it.
weird? That just kind of appears.
I crave Giallo and I crave Argento, and then I watch it and I still don't really love it.
You're still not sure why you're watching it, but then you have the urge to go back.
Watch it.
Yeah. The score in this movie is basically a cheap American Goblin cover band.
Yeah,
right?
That's absolutely what it is.
It's that kind of lazy drum, pawn shop bass, sort of. The guitar that the main character is actually playing on his own porch.
Right.
And then the keyboard that's kind of, you noted this as we were watching it about the muscle cars. So if you were to get a hand-me-down car today, you would get what, a
You'd get a teal Ford Taurus.
Right. But in the 70s and the 80s,
you get
it's like, oh, I got this shitty muscle car.
1973 Dodge Charger.
See, that's how I feel about synthesizers.
Right.
I feel like in the 80s, you couldn't walk, 2 feet into. I was going to make a Radio Shack joke, but it probably wasn't. I don't know where people got these. It's a giant mystery to me. But everywhere you went, every crappy 80s band had the most amazing vintage keyboards. And we look back now and we go, wow, these keyboards, they're rare and they're hard to get and they're $1 million on eBay and they sound great. They sound like shit. They sound like in this movie. But now that, that sound audibly, that's great. And today's cheap keyboards they're MIDI keyboards. They don't even make sounds. So I feel the same way about keyboards that you do about,
cars.
I guess 80s muscle cars, 70s hand-me-downs. So the tall man is I guess for all intents and purposes of the Killapalooza, he would be our slasher. Is that how that works?
He's our antagonist. He never slashes.
I guess that's true.
He walks in a very menacing way.
Sure.
His eyebrow could maybe be considered a weapon.
After the last Killapalooza, I'm not going to make any eyebrow jokes. That's a personal vow I've made to myself and now to our audience.
All right, that's fair enough.
He looks super fucking boss, though.
Yeah,
he
does.
The kind of swift, almost this feminine sort of walk he has.
Well, especially with such a dumb haircut.
Yeah, right. Hey, that's the Carl Sagan haircut you're mocking there, sir. You watch
anybody who has that haircut has a dumb haircut.
And he always seems to be backlit as he's walking through doors. You never really see him go anywhere unless he's passing by an ice cream truck, I guess. Mm-hmm. But he's always walking through these fucking doors in slow motion, and you have the light all around him, and I guess the distinctive haircut. You're right. Sure. I do think of the haircut. I do think of that weird swoop thing that's going on there. So he's part of the role of the antagonist in these movies, but also those little chrome sphere thingies, the reflective ball. What are these? What is this about?
They fly around. They kind of like siphon blood out of your body. Okay. They siphon fluid out of your body.
So in the first movie, there's only, 2 scenes with the little things in them?
Right.
And they kind of stick out these little razors, and they get stuck in your forehead. It appears that it has to be the forehead at this point. And I guess you're right. They siphon the blood out. Are they siphoning the blood out so the nacho cheese can go in, or when?
I think
when does the cheese whiz enter the equation here?
I think that the spheres are solely there to kill things. I think they're kind of like a security system.
Sure, okay.
And
or that's all we know yet.
Yeah, exactly.
The first time we get nacho cheese, and I want to talk about that because that's a weird. I've always been a blood fan over a
nacho cheese fan,
a pus fan. But it's even stranger than, I think it's more gross than getting any kind of gore, is seeing, what is it? It's when the finger's severed. That's the first time you see this sort of, it does look like some kind of stale melted cheese that's been left out. I assume that's the method they're using. It's really disgusting. And yellow, when do you ever see that?
It's never yellow.
I've seen blue blood and black blood and green blood. Yellow blood, interesting choice. I'm going to say Don has some kind of obsession with yellow liquids because it's not the only one we see in this movie. Kind of another standout scene.
What, where the dude pisses himself?
Yeah, right. When does that happen?
Are you asking when does it happen in the film or when does it happen ever in film?
I meant in the history of cinema.
It doesn't. It's weird because everybody kind of has this knowledge in the back of their mind, or at least most people do. I don't know if I'm going to drop the bomb on everybody.
Okay.
When you die, you shit your pants, and when you have a baby, you shit the bed.
Thank you, South Park and Skepchick, respectively.
And so it makes sense that this guy dies and thusly pisses all over the floor, especially because he's terrified.
Sure.
But it's weird because you never see it, and it's uncomfortable. You asked if it was blood.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what the movie was doing. It seems this is about the closest this movie gets to a joke.
Yeah, the first one is super serious.
It is.
Or at least maybe deadpan.
No, I think it's just straight serious. I think that's absolutely it. It kind of follows a little bit of a slasher convention.
And a little bit of a Star Wars convention.
I wasn't going to give the franchise any shit until the 4th film, but I guess there's a little Star Wars going on in here too. And then eventually Guns come out. So there we go right away saying, all right, not so much a slasher movie. Now we're going to bulk up and make this an action film. But the first time you see Guns, he's got one pointed at his own head trying to get the Jawa off his back.
Right.
Which is really what we're all doing in life, I think, is trying to get the Jawa off our backs.
Just a metaphor.
But the first couple movies are all about functionality, too. You have the shotgun shell scene thing.
Right. Oh my God.
So somehow a door is opened with a shotgun shell?
I mean, it's really a very logical procedure. Mike is locked in his bedroom and he wants to get out. So he has a shotgun shell in his pocket. He tapes it to a hammer with a push pin in between to ignite the primer. And then he slams it on the door, blows a hole in it, and then unlocks the door. Kind of glory hole style. And then he's
glory
out of his
hole
room.
style. I'm sorry. Am I just supposed to let you get away with that?
Yeah.
So in case you couldn't relate, like a glory hole. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. It gets him out of the room, so I guess whatever works. It's these moments that you remember back from the first one that I don't want to, we're already in the first movie. We have to start throwing out the word iconic, right? That's just how it goes on double feature.
The first one has to be the iconic one.
But here we're dealing with that. This is an interesting question as we'll kind of go through the 4 movies. What do they bring in each film? What comes back? Do they have any kind of foresight to say, oh, we're going to make sequels?
Sure.
Now, this is the same camp of people, and we'll talk about this more as the other films come up. Same fucking people in almost every movie.
Which is the first time this ever happened.
Yeah.
We have the same writer-director for all 4 films.
So these will be his choices when certain elements come back.
For better or for worse.
So we get to the end of the first film, and looking back, having ignored what the man with no neck said, I don't know what this is a movie about. I know in the end there's a white room with some barrels, which is totally fucking hip. And there's the scary mirror ending.
Sure.
So this starts what really should be a staple for all slasher movies.
Well, but prior to the scary mirror ending, because that would be a great note to kind of just transition into maybe the second film.
You see what I'm doing here?
What we need to cover is another staple that happens, which is at the end of the film, reality resets.
Oh, sure.
It always goes... Because in the end of this film, you and I were actually really confused and taken aback because... we both remember seeing Reggie die, but at the end of the film, Reggie
just
alive,
comes back. Yeah, he's fine.
And Jody's dead.
Whoops.
And we're going, what? How did
that happen?
Wait, is that not Reggie? No, it's a ponytail.
Yeah, it's got to be Reggie, sure.
It's not a Hellraiser thing.
Sure.
But it sets this precedent for the reality of this situation is skewed and resettable, which actually plays into the overall plot of Phantasm. And brings us to the end of the first Phantasm film up in the, I guess, the bathroom at...
Yeah, this would be somewhere in line with Sleepaway Camp or the first Jason movie as far as, memorable ending, first of the franchise. And that fucking mirror ending is great. It's goddamn, and then there's credits.
Yeah.
Perfect. Go to credits.
Tall Man gets the last word.
That's what you want to happen. Perfect.
Directed by Don Coscarelli.
And so nearly 10 years later,
yeah,
there is Phantasm 2. Takes a while to get that off the ground. So apparently Phantasm found some love over the decade, and they make a second one, which is great because the first one didn't make any fucking sense. I mean that in the nicest way.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't have to make sense.
Nope.
A film like this is about, firstly, being creepy, secondly, being scary, I guess, part of that slasher. I mean, whatever... we're 14 in and I still don't know what a slasher franchise is about, but whatever it's about, it is being that slasher franchise. And I suppose the third is being a little trippy, right? That's kind of how it stands out from these other films coming out around the time. So when we get to a second, we're going to elaborate on this world a little bit. We're going to learn a little bit more about the mythology.
Right.
And given that there's only 4 films, I'm wondering how hard we're going to dive into this stuff.
Well, I think one of the biggest separations that we see a lot of in the second film is that this is not just horror. No. It's sci-fi horror.
Sure.
And I think...
there's more laser beams.
Yeah, there's laser beams. You kind of get an idea that there's an interplanetary thing going on.
Sure.
There's kind of a, Plan 9 from Outer Space plot line underlying.
Now you're thinking about Plan 9.
Everything.
Yeah.
But the thing is in all of these Killapaloozas, we rarely get one that's based in sci-fi. We did Alien and Predator.
Yeah.
Right? That's based in sci-fi.
Certainly.
Jason X is in space.
Sure.
Leprechaun 4 is in space. But that doesn't mean it's a sci-fi franchise.
Yeah, those movies prove that.
So we get Phantasm, which is first and foremost a horror franchise, but based in a sci-fi reality.
Yeah.
With ponytails.
Well, and the ponytail comes back. So we start to get some of our crew back here we have a pretty immediate sequel, and although the actors look 10 years older,
sure,
they're interested in telling us these characters' stories still. Sure. This isn't just about the adventures of the tall man.
Which it totally could be.
Yeah. I mean, we accepted that everywhere else. We'd certainly accept it here.
But instead, this is about a very specific group of people. It's about these three guys versus the tall man and an army of Jawas.
I believe they say that literally later, that it's about these three friends. So we see Reggie again, but we also get a new character. We just add this completely arbitrary topless girl into the mix.
Right.
Which, I mean, I'm not complaining about.
If you're adding something into the mix, it should be an arbitrary topless girl.
They literally just pick her up off the side of the road as if they need another character. One of the characters starts daydreaming, hey, wouldn't it be great if we just had a topless chick in this film?
Right.
Actually, I think he's daydreaming about her naked corpse, but, you know, whatever gets you off. Her name is, and I love this, it's Alchemy, but, you know, Kemi for short.
Kemi for short.
I'm sad we don't see her around for very long. I guess she makes it through the rest of the film. We have not one, but two ladies in this film.
Yeah.
We also get the strange psychic connection girl.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings me to a little, I guess I'm going to call it a hiccup in the franchise because it is essentially beyond the power of the powers that be, which is that we don't get a Michael Baldwin returning as Mike.
Oh, yeah.
But Michael Baldwin is in the next two films.
Yeah, so we almost have the whole cast through all four.
Sure.
But for whatever production reason, they didn't want Michael Baldwin to come back, so they got somebody else. The guy does a totally fine job.
Yeah, it's
not like the second Silent Night, Deadly Night or anything.
It's to the point where I didn't know for sure if it wasn't him.
Right, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
So we're in this middle chunk of movies where we have some girl power. And the other thing this is really strange, not just for a sequel, but really thinking back to anything we've ever done. I can't remember a movie where we started ass kicking so early in.
Yeah, we get the gearing up montage within 15 minutes.
We're gearing up for a climax to a film that hasn't happened yet.
Right, exactly.
This isn't Machete style, blow down the door, I'm going to show you how fucking killer this movie is going to be. This is, hey, you know these characters, it's time to go on the mission. Right. That's the feeling we have here.
You've already seen these characters, you know their agenda, you know what they're up against. They're not going to pretend it's all okay for a while.
Sure.
They're going to get down to brass fucking tacks and tape two shotguns together.
Oh, it's so great. It's such a simple, beautiful idea. It's one of my favorite kind of things a movie can do, where they just completely betray a convention. They stop and say, wait, why do we need to, go through all this boring work first? Let's just fucking go for it. And I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
The thing that makes me love this is, one, that it works. Yeah. Even if it didn't work, I would love it. But the fact that we drop this unnecessary part of the movie where the characters sit around and be boring for a while, and we just jump into the action, and it's totally fine. And even if it had not been fine, it would have got us into the action right away. So that's good. But the fact that they perform this experiment and it completely works, and it hasn't been used just everywhere since then, I think that's such a great way to start your, especially slasher sequel.
Yeah, absolutely.
We play around so much in the slasher genre on this show because you can do anything and nobody cares. There's nothing off the table.
The thing that I've always loved about horror, and specifically slasher franchises, is with as many rules as there are, 0% of them need to be followed.
Right, absolutely.
You can do anything you want.
Yeah, and that gives filmmakers a lot of a creative area to play around in. So we're getting this payoff here that we didn't have to work for at all. I feel like we're completely fucking cheating. And then we have a flaming hunchback apparition going on. It's when we get to that scene and it's just a girl crying in the corner with a weird thing coming out of her back.
Sure.
We're already entering into the territory that, we would have in the more bizarre, off-the-wall, heart-eating type of slasher sequels. But we're just going to get to it right away. We're just going to force our audience to accept that.
Well, I mean, when we were watching it, I likened it to the difference between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Sure.
Where Evil Dead comes out and it has to set itself up as a thing. Mm-hmm. And then Evil Dead 2 goes, you get it, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what Phantasm 2 does. They come out of the gate going, it's going to be gorier, it's going to be funnier, it's going to be more fucking badass.
Yeah.
down to grinding up Sam Raimi's bones.
I think it's really funny that we're both thinking Evil Dead, and then the Sam Raimi mention happens, right? I mean, I had literally written in my notes talking about some of the camera stuff, how in the second Phantasm movie, blah, blah, cameras, blah, blah. You know, the cameras being more, all of that cinematography being more over the top. They're using a lot of those little Sam Raimi kind of fast push-in shots that are really typical of Evil Dead, but show up in his other work too, where the camera gets in close enough to kind of almost warp a character's face a little bit. You have the shot where the guy gets caught, you know, stabbing the corpse in the coffin,
right?
Or through the window in the door, kind of looking back and forth between that weird little decorative thing. So yeah, I'm thinking about Sam Raimi, and then all of a sudden his name is plastered on a container.
Right.
So where is this in the range of time when Evil Dead came out?
This is after both Evil Deads.
Okay,
but
so
the first Phantasm came out before both Evil Deads.
So we have a Phantasm, and then in the nearly a decade that follows, we have Evil Dead 1, and I think the year before this, we have Evil Dead 2.
And then we have Phantasm 2, and then Army of Darkness didn't come out for another couple years.
Now, we mentioned Don Coscarelli at the open of the show. He's doing all 4 of these movies.
Yeah.
We talked about him before when we did Bubba Hotep.
Right, which, it's no surprise, contains an actor named Bruce Campbell.
Sure.
Notably
from the Evil Dead movies.
Exactly.
In fact, I would say, aside from Bubba Hotep, Evil Dead, his most famous... I mean, I don't think people would argue with that, right? His most famous films.
Yeah, probably Army of Darkness.
Sure.
And then you have Bubba Hotep and the Evil Dead movies. And then the rest are just a slew of movies. Everybody knows what the cover looks like. And My Name is Bruce, which everyone saw and was disappointed by.
Oh, the angry emails. They're flooding in already. This is the donation show. You're not allowed to say anything mean.
I'll take it back with enough donations. I'll take anything back.
I look forward to your printed retraction. So a lot of ties between those two people. We're obviously not the only ones thinking about that. When you talk about the Evil Dead 2, kind of we're having fun.
Sure.
I mean, this movie, aside from the ass-kicking opening, we have a road chase that ensues right away with a hearse, nonetheless. Yeah. We're firing off a quad-barrel shotgun. Which becomes another piece of iconography, another great thing from the series. We have this 4-barreled shotgun thing we've assembled. Well, and Mike has a flamethrower. I mean, if I'm Michael Baldwin, I am super pissed I'm not in this movie right now.
Well, not only that, but he misses out on being in the film with all the dry humping.
Yeah, a little bit of awkward dry humping.
Yeah,
but
trying to pass it off as hardcore sex, but both parties have clothing on.
That was the second one, wasn't it? Yeah.
There are tits out, and I asked you if that was his sister.
Right, because that's what you're expecting somewhere in this franchise. I always expect
the sequel to a horror franchise to have incest now.
That's just what we've come to accept.
That's where the bar is for me.
You know, we were just talking about dry humping on the last Killapalooza. I think it was Silent Night, Deadly Night, right? Because it was the one with the toys.
Sure, yeah.
And I called it something like that wonderful teenage dry hump thing. This is not a wonderful teenage dry hump thing. This is that thing movies do where actors are still wearing clothes, but they're pretending they're fucking.
Yeah.
Very deliberate. Not cool.
Doesn't make
movies.
any goddamn sense. There's a lot of stuff you can do with clothes on that will make everybody less confused and uncomfortable, including your actors.
Having intercourse, not one of them. You're getting me off my track here. I was talking about flamethrowers, man.
I'm sorry. Flamethrowers.
We had a flamethrower, a quad-barrel shotgun. The second movie also had the chainsaw.
The chainsaw.
I mean, we see the chainsaws all over the place. But the chainsaw here, this is what I'm loving, is that this movie is using its weapons for very casual, practical reasons.
Sure.
It learned something from the shotgun hammer thing in the first movie.
Right.
It's saying, all right, we're going to use a chainsaw to saw down a door.
Weapons can be tools.
And we're going to use a flamethrower to light a fucking fire. But that doesn't mean the movie's pulling any punches as far as the gore stuff goes.
No, not at all. I think it's a step above the previous Phantasm film. We get the gold sphere that goes through the guy's body.
Right.
And a lot of crotch shots.
Well, an exploding acid face. I mean, when we finally take down the tall man, sort of.
Right.
His entire body is melting with acid. That's going through some kind of embalming fluid.
It's like an embalming device. They suck out the blood, pump in the embalming, accordion you down to a midget, and then you're a slave.
I guess that's making enough sense. I mean, we sort of know by the second movie there's slaves, there's another dimension, there's accordions. At some point you convinced me that we're just going to use the term accordioning for this process. But yeah, his face is melting and his eyeballs are exploding out of his head.
Sure.
The eyeballs exploding out of the head that's class A where you go for slasher material. And when we finally get out of that place, we are burning it all down. We just take the flamethrower. I mean, we're literally walking out of here, and we've had a couple things that haven't paid off, little traps that we have set up. But as we're walking out, thinking to myself, man, didn't really get to use that flamethrower, did you? Burn the whole fucking house down. Just burn it to the ground. And we pop back in that hearse for a getaway. So I'm thinking, where are we going to go after this getaway? Each movie is, I mean, Michael, they're almost literally all an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's really within a 3-minute margin. Beautiful.
It's so good. And as we're nearing our hour and 30-minute mark, we're in a getaway in this hearse, and that's where we find out, I believe this is a dream.
No, it's not.
Well done, sir. And I guess that's just supposed to make sense to us. We're just supposed to go, oh, like in the first movie where some things are real and some things are not real.
And then break through the window, grab your main character. Red text reads, directed by Don Coscarelli.
You get the red text and you're excited. You want to watch the movie again. Mid-90s, Phantasm 3. Has some sort of a tagline that I'm going to ignore. We're going to call it Phantasm 3.
Great.
Complete with font still circa the 80s. And we opened this movie with retcons aplenty.
Yeah, but they're all really well done.
They are. So let's kind of cycle through some of this.
Sure.
We had a little bit of a weird retcon, replace the actor, something going on, still show one of the actors in the first movie.
Well, they basically artfully shot the final scene where the two characters are in the back of the car.
Sure.
And they see Reggie die, and then it's the psychic female and Mike. And they re-show that scene with psychic female, but make sure Mike is not to be seen.
Right.
And then the first time you see Mike's face, surprise,
it's Mike again.
Michael Baldwin has returned.
So by the third movie, we've replaced second movie Michael Baldwin with actual Michael Baldwin.
Right. About 15 years of age.
Yeah, the saddest part about replacing Michael Baldwin is the character's name is Mike. It's clearly just, this is a group of friends making movies.
Exactly.
And they kicked him out for the second one. I mean, he had to go.
Another massive retcon that we get in the beginning of the film is that Reggie is not nearly as dead as he was.
Slightly less dead.
At the end of the previous film.
So in the first movie, they just expected us to buy that. They flat out told us. And that's why the movie is, so funny in doing that, because it's not like they had to do a retcon. They're still within the first film. They could just have fixed the plot if that's how they wanted to do it. But they chose to kill a character and then just fucking look in our eyes and tell us he's not dead.
Yeah.
They made that decision. Now they're going back and they're saying, oh, whoops, we're going to make a third movie. Let's retcon it. We'll show you we can do it the other way.
Yeah.
So Reggie has a tiny cut on his face instead of being totally
some
brutalized.
red finger paint.
Yeah. And the car blows up because that's how we wrap up our loose plot ends. We ship them off in a car which explodes. So now we're no longer left wondering, well, where did the tall man go and how did he disappear or whatever?
And whose brother's an orb?
Whose brother is an orb? That's a question that may come up again. And so the third movie says, oh, I'm going to ass kick just as well as the second movie.
But be a lot funnier about it. And right off the bat, we get the aerial quad gun fire.
Oh my God, it's so good. Well, the Jawa boom, the single Jawa, but then shoots it into the tree and Jawas fall down.
Yeah, Jawas fall out of the tree.
Beautiful, one at a time, clearly being tossed from off camera into the frame. Man, they fall out of that tree and I just fucking lose it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. It's so, it says a lot about how the tone of this movie is going to be. The movie's going to tell some jokes. I don't know if the movie's kidding here or being badass, but it is funny. It's really funny.
I think it's very much in line with Army of Darkness, which has now come out.
Sure.
You have to keep in mind that if we're going to keep likening this to Evil Dead, which we're totally not, because that would then negate us ever needing to do Evil Dead.
And short sell this franchise a little bit. But while we're drawing the parallels anyways.
So we get Don Coscarelli has seen Army of Darkness, and Army of Darkness goes even one better, more badass, and even sillier.
Sure.
So Don Coscarelli goes, okay, yeah, I can see I can dig. And then he has his quad gun toting ice cream man.
Sure.
Shoot down a bunch of
premise
Jawas.
That's always been funny, right? Yeah. The movie's never acknowledged that it was an ice cream man, and therefore this is fucking hilarious. So suddenly he's all about being the ice cream man, and he's shooting little dwarves out of trees.
This is our hero.
The girl, on the other hand, is totally dead, big time,
major dead.
She's mutilated to the point of being unrecognizable, and that means she's not coming back.
Right.
That's how you know. When you see a character fall off a car and roll over in a ditch, and it's clearly a different scene than last time, but the actor's there, we're either doing a weird Halloween thing or we totally got that actor back. They are sticking around for the rest of the film. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, we want to know, okay, one girl turned into the tall man, the fun girl, actually, and then the other girl got so mutilated that we didn't even get the fucking actress back, so don't worry about her. Good, we all understand each other now.
Great, but we bring in 3 more female roles. Unfortunately, 2 of them are insanely short-lived.
Yeah, so is the other one part of the numbskulls? Is that the other one you're talking about? Yeah. These so we have some scavengers, I guess, right? We're introduced to
They look like rodeo clowns.
These 3 fucking idiots. They're the gang from the 3rd Jason movie. They're the morons from Happy Town. These are characters I know you love and you know I fucking despise.
Yep.
I hate when these 3 people show up in movies.
Yep.
And so they die right away.
They die.
The movie says, hey, Michael, check these people out. Oh, hey, Eric, they're dead. Don't worry. But they come back. They come back, and that's funny to me because I thought I got out of that.
In a very Treehouse of Horror-esque, like zombies chasing you in a car chase.
Sure, right. Well, you make it sound slapstick, but I think it's just dark.
It's
you know, as we describe it back now, it sounds like Ice Cream Man Assassin. It sounds funny.
Sure.
But, you know, if there's anything that's slapstick about the movie, I think it's that we introduce this kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
We bring in, if we didn't have enough fucking trapped houses in these movies, quickly becoming a staple, we bring in Macaulay Culkin, who's basically going to hang out for the rest of the movie, who's going to become a pivotal character.
Yeah, and is for whatever reason a Deadeye firer.
Well, and this is something we actually have to worry about as we're constructing a slasher franchise over this many years. You know, Jason doesn't have this problem. Every summer, back in the summers when Jason movies came out, or in October, whenever the fuck these movies came out, when these movies still existed every couple of years, it was a new camp of kids, and so we're always dealing with teenagers. We're always dealing with teens or 20-somethings.
Right, or their parents.
Yeah, and so that audience shows up to the movie. Now, by doing something kind of interesting that this franchise does, where it says, hey, I'm midnight movie fun slasher, come see me, but also I'm going to have these characters who are going to go from 20 to 45 by the end of this, or probably even older, right? From 77 to 99. That's a long goddamn time. And so we have to introduce some new characters here and there. They're always younger faces. I mean, that's no accident. We want to make them a little more identifiable, I guess, with the younger generations that might come to see this movie. You know, and here they're not disguising it at all. They're really appealing to the 10-year-old demographic. Right. I mean, nut shots are also becoming a staple of the franchise. Or I guess it's an axe in the knee. It's an implied nut shot, but it becomes an axe in the knee, so it doesn't count. There is that moment, the that was close moment, when Rocky stabs the creature in Reggie's pants.
Right.
So yeah, I guess we have Rocky too. Rocky is one of the total badass chicks that...
the one that survives.
I don't know what they're attempting to do when they find Reggie.
Yeah.
If they're going to mug him or rape him or steal his wallet or what. But they try and take him hostage, essentially. And, you know, she's the one thing that disrupts this from being a buddy movie. Although, I guess, a lot of times when you have a buddy movie with a kid in it, there is a strange romantic plot thread too.
Well, because the kid is kind of... doesn't understand romance, and it's comic to get him in the way of it, I guess.
Yeah, this movie is somewhere between Paper Moon and Terminator 2. I mean, I'm getting some really heavy Terminator 2 vibes. But
is
that
Terminator 2 the one where the guy's brother's an orb?
Terminator 2 is the one where Reggie's trying to get laid at the hotel, and he has a back and forth with the kid in the car.
Right.
That is, I think, this is a level of humor that is uncommon anywhere else in the series. It never really gets as obvious, here is a joke, as when, you know, he's standing behind Rocky trying to tell this kid, hey kid, stay in the car, I'm going to bang this chick.
Right.
And, you know, she keeps turning towards him and he's acting really coy and nonchalant about it. And this is the first time we see him get rejected. So we learn something about Reggie's character here, that he's interested in saving the day.
But he's more interested in
he wants to
Poontang.
Bang the chick in the movie.
All the time. All the time.
Well, to the point where you start to question his actual motives in these movies. If he really is in it to help Mike out, or if he just likes meeting chicks he's in the wrong genre if he wants to drive his car around and meet chicks on the side of the road.
That's true. But he's in the right genre if he wants to get out of committed relationships as quick as possible.
So he and Rocky and this kid go off to save Mike or kill the tall man or both. And, we start to learn about the weaknesses of the tall man and get a little bit more background there.
Right.
We have that flashback to the first film.
Sure.
Where the tall man doesn't like the cold.
Yeah. When I saw the first time, I thought that the tall man liked the cold.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on in that scene.
Or he smelled a really good burger.
He stops. Well, I think isn't it the ice cream truck he walks by? Truck. Yeah, and he sort of turns to the side and looks.
What's he doing, like, out in town?
I don't know. He's just wandering about. He's wandering about. It was weird. Of course, I remember the scene from that movie because I believe it's the only scene where the tall man's not walking through a door. He's out having a stroll. And so, we do this thing that's great, and they're finally capitalizing on, all right, we're 3 films in, we can go back. We have the same characters, we have the same actors. The people responsible for Phantasm 3 are all the same people who were responsible for Phantasm 1. So they're going to go back, they're going to pull from their previous work, and they're going to drop it in the third movie.
To kind of flesh it out and explain what's going on and, I guess, support their retcons.
Well, yeah, and make it seem like there's more subtext to the first film than there actually was. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a great way to just fucking stroke your ego there, is say, oh, you thought that that first film was a little obvious? You thought you totally got that? Well, remember the weird scene where he walks by the cold that you never question? Yeah, here's why that's important. I don't think anyone actually thought that. I think everybody saw that first movie and was confused. So they probably didn't need to do it, but they did it anyways. And then they start answering these questions. I mean, questions that no one was asking. They answer, what are the chrome balls? Right. Was that your question? Is that really what you were concerned with?
Not really.
I think there's a lot more pressing questions in here.
Right.
What are the chrome balls? Not really one that needed answering. But we know they have brain parts or something in them.
They have brains, and they were at one point people. They've been trapped there.
See, I'm excited for this because I think, the movie finally knows where it's at. It has these stupid little spheres that fly around and shoot pus or blood out of your brain or whatever. And they're kind of scary and they're cool looking, and
they're also dumb balls.
They're not stolen from A New Hope is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? The movie's coming into its own. It's saying, hey, here's something we clearly created. We didn't realize how amazing it was at the time. Let's make the movie all about that now. There's thousands of them. Yeah. You were talking about Alien. I mean, that's a total Aliens vibe, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, now there's a bunch.
Yeah.
Be really fucking scared of that. And then the movie ends on I guess it's kind of one-liner. It's never over. The grab and then the credits.
Yeah.
Everybody being totally fucked at the end.
And the third film is probably, this is a good moment to just briefly touch on Angus Scrimm as the tall man.
Sure.
Because by the fourth film, I'm not sure who he is because he has a different name.
Okay.
I think he's absolutely one of the greatest things to ever happen to a horror franchise.
Well, let's talk about that a bit as we get into this fourth film. Right. I'm going to make a goddamn chapter right here.
Sweet.
Angus Scrimm. Now we know everything about him. In fact, more than we wanted to know.
Yeah.
So before we get to the Civil War...
You mean after we've gotten to the Civil War, but then returned
Who would have... I mean, I can't even believe we're at a point where I'm saying, oh, the fourth Phantasm movie, you mean the Civil War one?
Yeah.
But by now we're full on sci-fi. I mean, the third really solidified it. The third was... We were talking about other planets and creatures and dimensions and stuff. But now it's got a huge sci-fi plot, too. It's the film with time travel.
And the telekinesis.
So yeah, aliens or another dimension or something. Which, by the way, at the end of the film, I still don't really know if it's aliens or another dimension or what. I don't know why we're talking about aliens. There's still... We get a Civil War backstory, which we'll get into in a second. But then there's a missing gap. Step 1 is Civil War. Step 2 is a big fucking mystery. And then step 3 is our modern tall man or prophet.
Right.
So we're saying, all right, we're going to go back and tell you the story, but the step 2 is really the important one.
Yeah.
He disappears for a little while. We don't know. And then he comes back and he's the tall man. So aliens at that point?
Plus,
is that where aliens?
There's this horrible thing where Mike, who is now an alien, I guess, or at least a robot-y thing.
Yeah.
Which we can maybe assume is what happened to the tall man.
I don't know.
But not really because he doesn't have metal eyes and he melts.
Oh, God.
But Mike goes back in time and meets kindly old Mr. Morningside on his veranda.
Okay, so before Mr. Morningside, what do we love about the tall man? Before we ruin it for everybody. See, I'm in the same boat you are on this, and this is interesting for me. I love the tall man. I do not know why I love the tall man.
Yeah.
I think he is so fucking cool. Nothing about him is cool. I don't. He's a creepy old guy, and he walks weird. And he's in slow motion all the time.
I think what I like about the tall man is that he's not terrifying in the conventional sense.
Sure.
He's very foreboding and
Right.
he's very heavy. He's like a fucking freight train.
Sure.
I mean, think about it in the exact terminology of a goddamn freight train.
Okay.
There's this freight train going down train tracks.
Sure. Yeah.
Carrying
Freight.
accordion people.
Okay. Great.
Now, that freight train is huge and massive and powerful, and you would under no circumstances would you approach the freight train.
Don't want to be in its way. Totally got you.
And if you're not in its way, he probably won't ever fuck with you. But the second you're in the way of the freight train, you are dead.
Okay.
You are
Devastation. Sure.
absolutely fucked.
See, I think it's a little bit more of the Tom Noonan kind of the House of the Devil thing.
Sure.
I think it's a little bit more creepy. What is this guy up to?
He's too proper to be this evil.
Yeah, right. Well, so when we go back and we discover Civil War Morningside, I think a lot of that defines, just like when we were talking about Wishmaster, and by the second film, the actor knew the things in the first movie that, made him iconic.
Right.
Phantasm illustrates that it knows those things as well by betraying those things instead of indulging in those things. It's not saying I'm going to be an amped up version of the tall man from the preview. I'm going to be even fucking taller than I was last movie and everybody's going to fear
I'm
me.
going to get taller and manlier.
Right. So we go back to the Civil War and instead it's, look at this kindly old gentleman. This really is Angus Scrimm showing off in the way that he said he could when he was introducing the first movie to us. He's just saying, I can play a totally different character. I'm going to be a nice, humble old gentleman. I'm going to offer you some of my sun tea or lemonade or whatever the fuck that was.
And I'm going to be married to the blind lady that was in the first film for an arbitrary
throwback. Oh, yeah. You remember her? Well, I hope you do because we drug her out in the fourth film. This is not a jump the shark moment for me. The movie can still turn back and go into the original dimension. It's completely fine. It could just give us a preview of what existed somewhere else in time and space, and then just come right back to reality. These movies are about betraying reality anyways, so that doesn't really bother me. But this is also the film that points out that cars only blow up in movies.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that was the moment. I think
that was it for you?
I think that was it for me. If it wasn't, it was the moment where he wakes up next to the girl whose breasts have been replaced by shiny spheres. Here I thought we might actually get another female protagonist in these movies. Nope, no women. Just
she has
here
titty
to...
spheres, and surprise, she's one of the bad guys.
Oh, God. I mean, none of this is really important. This isn't the stuff I'm going to remember. What this movie is about is the strange way in which it came into being, or I guess
why it is what it is.
Yeah, right. What it's composed of. I care, I guess, even less about why this movie exists, but more what it's doing. But I guess there's a little why it exists. That's kind of important. There's Roger Avery had written this script, and I guess we'll make this really short. Roger Avery's done a bunch of stuff. You can look him up. Worked with Tarantino on some stuff. We've covered some of that stuff before on the show. He wrote this script for I guess what would be a Phantasm 5. Right. And while it was stuck in development hell...
Phantasm, what was it? Phantasm 1999 AD?
1999 AD, yeah, that was it. It was a Chasing the Semi movie.
Right.
It was the borrowing apocalyptic images from Road Warrior movies. Right. We're going to have a post-apocalyptic... Hey, it's 2 years after the movie's supposed to come out.
Couldn't get Mel Gibson, but the world has ended and there will be cars.
We're just going to do Road Warrior again. And with Phantasm, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, Roger Avery. And so stuck in development hell, Don chooses to just make another movie that's going to be kind of the setup for
it's the stepping stone.
What will now be a glorious fifth film in the franchise. They saved an hour and a half of our time by not making that film. Although maybe it would come out and be amazing. I don't know.
Totally something that
is possible.
Is a possibility.
It would make it a good solid 5, Killapalooza. So we come up with this movie, and this movie is the cheap, cobbled together out of old footage movie.
Out of outtaken footage.
Beautiful. Sleepaway Camp 4
right.
is this movie.
With a lot of voiceover.
By now we've had a lot of these previously on montage scenes, and we're getting them in the beginning of this movie, and it's just serving to remind us, not to explain to us what's going on, but just to say, hey, it's been a while since you've seen these movies, you remember all of these different scenes, weren't they cool? That's kind of where our characters are at now, here's what they've gone through. But then the exposition kicks in. And if you're going to give exposition, you might as well do it over a dark highway at nighttime, right? I mean, where else would you do that?
Just more Terminator. More Terminator on this podcast.
So this becomes the one where, hey, we're going to explain things. We're going to sit down with the audience. Yeah. We're going to say, this is why the things happened in the order they did. Here's what we're doing moving forward.
And here's a bajillion tuning fork gates that we never go back to.
Oh, yeah, all the fucking tuning forks. So I'm going to hold this movie up for doing something cool. For doing something really, really cool in a way that's, I mean, it's pretty awesome. We feared when we talked about the hypothetical Sleepaway Camp 4 that it would just be old scenes. And they would all be kind of cut together and it would be boring and bad.
Sure,
and,
especially since we had just watched the other movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, the last thing we wanted to sit through is a montage of all of the
Well, the last thing
films.
we want to sit through is 40 minutes of the previous film narrated by Eric Freeman.
Still not over that, huh? The pain just... Eric Freeman gave us Garbage Day. I don't know if we can blame him.
Red car. Nice one.
Phantasm 4 is here to completely exploit what we've only previously been hinting at. We're going to use full-on, unused footage from other films. We're going to not take extended scenes or really variations of scenes, but scenes that never made it into the other movies, and we are going to put them together in some kind of backstory, remember when. I mean, here's how you know this is good. When we first saw it, we were both thinking, wow, how did they get these actors to look like they used to?
Right.
Who did they cast as this kid?
Yeah.
Who
How
was
did they
perfect?
shrink Michael Baldwin?
Right. And it's not until the second or third time they do this where we start to really notice it. I mean, you noticed one I didn't even notice when we were going back to Angus's character from the first movie. I mean, I completely overlooked it. I just assumed, that's Angus. They made him look a little younger somehow. And
then they hanged him in a tree.
Yeah, right. And instead, they completely pulled that stuff from the cutting room floor of previous movies, stuck it together, and then kind of assembled a plot around it. I think that is brilliant.
It is.
That exists.
And there were moments where they used outtakes where I was like, how did they have that plan?
Yeah, right.
They've had that plan for 20 years.
Sure. It's they take the footage and then they weave a story around it, but it does absolutely have that effect. You watch it and you think they never could, especially the ending scene.
Sure.
Or I guess the hanging scene too. It's you see it and you go, they had such great foresight to create this, instead of thinking, wow, it's super forced, and they did a good job reverse engineering it. Phantasm for a long time was a perfect series. Yeah. For approximately
75% of the series.
I'm not going to give Phantasm shit for any of the stuff it's really sucking up. I will, but we need to talk about the Star Wars thing just really quick.
Okay.
All right, it's intervention time. Mm-hmm. I've held this down as long as I could. Now we're literally, not only are we doing Jawas, but we're doing them in sand dunes.
Doing them in sand dunes with secret Tusken Raiders.
Fucking Tusken Raiders, right? So not only are we on Tatooine, we are in these fucking sandy dunes, and there's Jawas hiding behind rocks. And then, just for no reason, there's a guy in the background with one of the masks, which was, previously in the other movies. But they pan by him fast enough that he looks like a sand person. Yep. He looks like a fucking Tusken Raider. These are just scenes from A New Hope. These can't be accidental anymore, right? This has to be a joke.
Definitely Jawas.
Do you think this is intentional? I mean,
it's difficult. If it were the third movie, I would say yes. But they
even cut to the sun. The sun is the transition for. I mean, it's only one sun instead of two. But
I think it's probably intentional. But I don't want to go on record and say it is.
All right, I will, because that'll give them credit rather than tearing them down. So hey, that was really funny that you finally called yourself out on using fucking Jawas. So tuning forks or something, they're a weapon. We get to the end. There's gates to other dimensions. Does Civil War, Angus, ruin it for you? I mean, is it?
It doesn't ruin it for me.
It's okay, right?
I think the one thing that the Phantasm franchise is missing for me is I want to know what the hell is going on with the tall man.
Sure.
I want to know what he is. I want to know what he really looks like.
Sure.
And I want to know where he's from.
It's funny because I didn't care about any of that shit until they invoked it.
Right.
And then I got myself mentally geared up to do that. And instead, they just told us who the tall man was before he was the tall man.
Exactly.
They still left out that huge piece that suddenly I didn't give a fuck before. Now I want to know.
Right. And the other thing is, whenever you see that other dimension, his home planet or whatever, it's just red with a bunch of Jawas.
Sure.
It doesn't. It's like the actual large city is just over the horizon.
Yeah.
So you get no background on this guy, and that's the biggest problem for me. That said, I kind of really like Phantasm.
Phantasm's fucking great. So if we go back over these four movies, and I want to ask you the age-old double feature question.
Yes.
Not what the fuck does a producer do, but rather where would you go with these films?
Where would I go with
so
the Phantasm film?
we'll backtrack a little bit. In the first movie, Mike is just a little tiny baby. He's a kid. They wander around in the graveyard. They're riding some motorbikes, and they're best of friends, and they're in a crappy porch band. I really wish they'd come back to the porch band. That's my only. That's where I would continue the franchise. They would rock out more. But they have that little scene of them in front of the fireplace. We set up our series, which would make the second film.
Second film is more badass, funnier. That's the one with
That's the flamethrower movie.
It's the flamethrower. It's the introduction to quad gun. It's the Ice Cream Man Strikes Back.
That's exactly what it is Ice Cream Man Strikes Back. All right, so second film, and I'm totally behind that. I think that's probably one of my favorites from the series. It's hard to say something like that's one of my favorites when there's 4 movies. I like the second one the best, I think.
I'm with you.
Awesome. The third one then is the road trip movie with another kid. We get a kid, but we also get Michael back.
And jokes.
And jokes. There's definitely some humor to it. The main joke I remember being outside of the hotel place. We also continue some stuff on with the tall man. We kind of realize what makes the movie's iconic, where the terror comes from or is supposed to come from. And I say that because I think it leans more towards sci-fi at this point than it does real terror. It's not really trying to scare you as much as, be gross late night sci-fi stuff. And then the fourth movie.
The fourth movie is the one where Mike successfully travels through the gate multiple times.
Yeah, and who really knows what happens at the end of that movie. So we get to that point, and we've gone in something of a circle. I guess that's safe to say. Where do you go from there? I mean, I guess this perhaps could be spoilery, right?
Sure.
This kind of tells you where the franchise ended up. Maybe it's time to chapter on out of here.
Yeah.
But where do you take a franchise like this?
I think the way that you get Phantasm back on the track it needs to be on is you take an army against the tall man. Not like an army. I'm not talking a military army.
Sure.
But I'm talking an underground organization.
Sure.
Maybe it is the post-apocalyptic thing, right? Maybe we're in a universe where we have essentially been enslaved by the tall man and his Jawa slaves.
Sure, right.
And there's an underground resistance that's gonna, take the power back.
Awesome.
But I don't want laser beams.
I don't want laser beams out of it.
I don't want lasers. I don't want anything that's gonna make loud noises. I don't want spaceships. I want people with fucking crowbars that are just experts at smacking the shiny spheres out of the sky.
I would love to see Gordon Freeman in these movies just as much as you would. But I think what's great about the end of the fourth movie is that they've set themselves up for their own reboot.
Yeah.
They have set themselves up in a position where they could potentially play out these events again in a slightly different manner.
Right.
Even give them an excuse to play around with a different cast.
Right.
And have the events transpire differently.
Sure.
But keep it in the same canon. They created that awesome kind of out for them where they can wrap up on their own terms their own franchise. And even if someone else were to start another franchise, you could include it in the canon and it wouldn't disrupt anything they're doing. And now everybody knows about Phantasm. Great.
Awesome.
Got that done.
Okay, red text.
Red text and a website, which is donate.doublefeatureshow.com.
That is our official homepage.
This donate thing was almost a complete success last time. Almost. But, we've lost a couple subscribers since then, and it's been a rocky few months.
It's the video games.
Yeah, it is. It's all the video game references. It makes people leave. I'm really sorry about that. Donate.doublefeatureshow.com. We're using our Killapaloozas as pledge drives. And you know what this has actually done that's been great is it has isolated all the periods in which people donate to specifically just when we have a Killapalooza.
Uh-huh.
Although it hasn't increased them in number. So actually what it did is just get people to stop donating the rest of the time. So, hey guys, we're still around. If you want to maybe give us some money, that'd be pretty cool, huh? What was the website?
I believe it's donate.doublefeatureshow.com.
We're working on a video thing. The video thing, I don't think we want to say anything about it, right?
We're going to work on a video thing, and
okay.
You're going to love it, and then you're going to give us more money.
It's going to be very double feature centric. Last time you and I did a video thing, you were on a stage being a badass, and I was filming you, and we created a little music video thing. And, people like that, but they wanted more boobs and more violence.
Sure.
I don't know if this new video will have either of those things because those cost a lot of money, but it will be more double feature related, kind of narrative. And we'd really love some extra money to do that. But first we need to get some money to pay for the show.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks in advance for that, and we'll keep you updated on video stuff. We have 2 more movies.
Yeah, we're just going to go back down to 2 next week.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
4 is, we could have kicked out 2 shows by now.
Sure, what the hell. But yeah, we're going to do some, let's call it a failed settlement double feature.
Great.
We're going to do Ravenous and Jonestown.
I only know about half of these. Oh, this is kind of old school, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm bringing half and you're bringing half, and we're going to see what a terrible, wonderful time it is.
Great. Watch more fucking film.
Bye. 2 people fucking. You know my favorite opening for a film is just 2 people fucking. Slasher franchises, totally getting it right. So already, this series has completely won me over.
Mm-hmm.
There's nearly nothing that it can do wrong from this point on. We have Reggie Bannister actually playing character
who plays Reggie,
named Reggie. And Michael Baldwin playing Mike.
Okay.
Young Michael Baldwin at this point in the franchise.
Little Michael Baldwin.
And then Angus will show up later as who I guess we'll call the tall man. So we're keeping everything pretty stripped down, pretty basic. And we start in Morningside, and already the movie has a lot of tact, too. Because when you start in Morningside, which is some kind of gated mansion graveyard.
It's a gated mansion graveyard
mausoleum thing, right?
Funeral parlor.
So easily you could have made Morningside a pun just in the spelling. And maybe the movie overlooked it, or maybe they chose the high road.
Sure.
Let's assume positive intent here. High road. And I love the design of this mausoleum funeral home thing. What is it? A mausoleum? Is it a mansion? This place is fucking big.
It's huge. There's just marble hallways lined with drawers containing the dead.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody would live there. Well, then again, there's someone that lives there. I don't think it's really a house. I just think it's a place for bad things to happen.
Well, and that's all we need. And having such a large interior spot like that, you live in a corn maze.
Sure.
This is the spooky corn maze from any other slasher film, just nested inside a giant mansion. This is really what website is donate.doublefeatureshow.com. Why don't you just use that direction to get to it, that address. This is I think our second Killapalooza of the year.
So second Killapalooza of the year, 14th. But 14th overall.
Total. Cannot believe that is a real number.
Thanks, everybody.
We're still going through them. We're doing the ones people request.
Kinda.
And
we're skipping a few that people continue to request.
We'll get back to them.
Too many puppets.
There is one small favor I will ask of our audience.
Okay.
Donate.doublefeatureshow.com. We had to fight with our input box for, 12 hours before we were actually able to record the show.
Right.
And I had a lot of really exciting, amazing things to say that I've permanently forgotten forever.
Yeah, you did.
We need to replace this thing, so give us some money. Instead, I'm going to give you all of the crap that's left over that I remember, and that'll compose today's show, which I believe includes spoilers.
It not only includes spoilers, but it also includes chapters, which you can use to avoid the spoilers, and we'll have it divided up by film. So if you want to skip through all the Phantasm films, the whopping, I'm not going to say quadrilogy, the whopping foursome that is
Foursome is
Phantasm.
Much better. Sure.
Then you can just skip right on. You could skip to the second, skip to the third, skip to the end. And
I like that you once again assume our audience does not know how to count to 4. That's good.
It's not an assumption. It's an educated guess.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey into the first Phantasm film, which came out in 1979.
Came out in 1979.
This opens with the man with no neck. How did he get in here?
I don't know. It's weird because so I went down to New Orleans and, much to my shock, I think I pissed all over Bourbon Street, and not for the reasons everybody else was.
Right.
When I turned the corner and saw that Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo is a real fucking place.
It is an actual place in New Orleans.
So for those of you that aren't aware, Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo is an iconic portion of the Hatchet franchise, which you're also sporting in t-shirt form today.
Speaking of which. So did you go in? What was this place?
did. I went in. It was amazing. It was a...
Can you tell me something about it?
Very serious voodoo shop.
We're going to get to Phantasm, but I have to... is it this... Do you think the interior was used for?
Oh, not at all.
No,
not
so
even, not even a little bit. But it's a very serious voodoo shop. They take it 100% seriously.
Oh,
You're not allowed to
beautiful.
take pictures of like things because they will scare the curses out of them or whatever.
This is amazing.
And everybody's really sullen and grumpy. And when you ask them which doll should I buy, which is a good souvenir, the answer is always something like, all the dolls have been blessed with the same blessings. Choose the one that you think is the right doll because it's probably calling to you because of something yada yada yada. I bought a t-shirt that has a scary face.
It does have a scary face.
And just says Zombies House of Voodoo.
It kind of looks like a little Plan 9 action there.
It's completely nondescript.
Beautiful.
As far as
love
voodoo
it.
goes. I don't mean to take it seriously, but I couldn't pass up the chance to own that shirt because you can't. That's not a online
No,
thing.
certainly not. Oh, love it. I'm going to take a picture of that, I think. We'll put it on the website or something.
Sweet.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Need you, dream you, find you, taste you, fuck you, use you, scar you, break you. I think that's the order,
Yeah.
right?
Why did you do that?
Actually, that's my stages of grief as I'm going through today's Killapalooza.
Okay.
My name is Eric, and you're Michael.
I am Michael.
You are
in
here.
Fact.
We're doing 4. It's a short one. 4 Phantasm movies.
4
today.
Phantasm movies.
On
What you
believe-
should have opened with instead of the amount of films was instead we're doing a Killapalooza today. Raise everybody's hopes.
And
4
then-
Phantasm films. Bring them right back down.
I don't know if it's the taste you or the fuck you phase that I like the best, but definitely not the scarring or breaking, which we will surely get to. You are not a t-shirt guy.
I'm not a t-shirt guy.
However, I noticed today, instead of your usual, let's say attire, you are wearing a Reverend Zombie's House of Voodoo
I am.
New Orleans t-shirts.
I am wearing that.
But where did this thing come from? What is this?
It came from New Orleans. I went down to New Orleans.
Okay, first of all, pause. You left Chicago.
I left Chicago and on a whim for no reason. A mutual acquaintance of ours wanted absinthe.
Yeah. You yourself an absinthe drinker?
No, not at all. But I am myself an avid traveler when it comes to getting there for free.
Yeah, well, I guess Angus Scrim doing his take on the man with the neck.
Well, eventually he kind of accordions out and
Sure.
becomes the tall man.
Yeah,
But
right.
not before doing this weird little desk jockey gig of
Sure.
I guess he talks about the film. He clues
He
us
points
in.
out he's a better actor than
Yeah.
he got. So if you haven't seen this particular copy of
Right.
the movie, this is the new anniversary edition, something
if I know.
box set, whatever. It opens with Angus Scrim talking about the movie a little bit,
I don't like when this happens.
spoiling the movie.
Yeah,
actually,
exactly. I don't like when this happens.
So I completely tuned him out to write down Rocky Horror Picture Show jokes. But you were listening. He said he basically
'cause
told you what the movies were about.
I had seen the first Phantasm film,
Sure.
similarly to when we did the last Killapalooza, which was Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
I had seen the first one and then not seen any of the sequels. So I had seen it, but to be completely honest, had no fucking idea what
Right.
went on in
Right.
the original.
That's still how I
Phantasm
feel.
film.
But yeah.
So I was listening very carefully to Angus Scrim's, I guess, a dissertation of
Sure.
his experience with Phantasm. And one thing I learned for sure is that it's pronounced Coscarelli.
Okay. Good.
I wasn't sure if it was Coscarelli or Coscarelli, so I was glad he clued us in on that. But also, he just kind of tells you what the movie's about, which still
includes a lot more dimensions, time travel, and Martians than I had
far
anticipated.
more. Also, more accordioned corpses.
Yeah, there's that too. Well, that part I would sort of get by the end of the first film.
But why though?
You have to start at the beginning, which is, by the way,
That's a very good place to start.
Once again,